All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our live this evening for our Meet the Author series. We're so glad that you are joining us this evening. We'll get started in just a second. During our live today, we will have the comment section open. Please feel free to add any questions or comments you have during our interview if you're watching this live, and we will make sure to have some time at the end so that we can answer your questions and respond to those. All right. Well, my name is Sarah Lynn Wells, and I'm the podcast administrator for Motherless Daughters Ministry. And tonight I have with me Dr. Mary Ellen Collins, who is the founder of the ministry. And I have Chelsea Ohlemiller, who I'll be giving you a little bit more information about her in just a minute, but she is the author that we are very excited to have with us. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with both of you tonight.
Yes, so I know we may have people here from our ministry who are excited to learn more about Chelsea's book and learn more about her. And I know we also may have some people here who follow Chelsea and are new to the ministry. So just really quickly, I wanted to just tell you a little bit about our ministry. You can always look on our Facebook page and get a link to our website to find out more information. But Motherless Daughters Ministry is a faith-based nonprofit dedicated to serving women who have lost the nurturing care of a mother, either by death, through emotional absence, or through being the daughter of a narcissistic mother. So we do serve women who have experienced mother loss in many different ways. And we have many different programs and resources to help in a community of just people who have been through various types of mother loss. So we are very excited. Welcome if you are new to our ministry, and we're excited for you to join us this evening. All right, and like I said, this is our first of our Meet the Authors series, where we are going to have authors on who have written books that cover themes of mother loss and that we think could be really encouraging to our community. So we are so excited to have Chelsea Ohlemiller with us tonight as our first guest for the Meet the Authors series. Chelsea is an author and speaker who's passionate about the awareness of the impact of grief. She has an active and engaging social media presence on her blog, Happiness, Hope, and Harsh Realities. Her first book, which I have right here, titled Now That She's Gone, was released in August. And she's also been featured in the national bestseller, So God Made a Mother, 2 Chicken Soup for the Soul books, and also been published on platforms such as Her View from Home, Scary Mommy, and Love What Matters. So we are so thankful for you to be here, Chelsea. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for our conversation, and I know grief is a heavy topic, but I know it will be filled with hope and light as well. So
I just want to remind everybody that there's a 20-second delay from when you ask a question or you talk and we answer. So that's the only thing I want to remind you.
Yes, thank you. That's a great point. All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Like I said, I see a couple of comments coming in already. So if you're joining us, welcome, and feel free to add questions and we will make sure to get to those at the end. So Chelsea, as we're talking about Now That She's Gone, I just want to start by asking you, what inspired you to write about your mother loss journey?
well, I think it was my mom. And that sounds weird, but I lost my mom in 2017, and I was an educator before that. And really, through losing her, I realized that she always loved when I would write. I would just write in my journal and, little things. And she always said, I should write and I should do something with it. And I never really listened. And after she passed, I realized I wasn't going to get any new advice from my mom. There would be no new advice coming. And so it felt really important to me to take the advice she had already given me. And that was one of them. And so I originally just started writing to heal and kind of make her proud and do something that I knew she enjoyed that I did. And so it never did I imagine it would be where it is today. But if I really dive into the, what started me writing, it would definitely be my mom.
Oh, what a special connection to have then, to be able to feel that connection with what you're writing about, but also to kind of continue that legacy of your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know obviously as we go through the book, you're sharing about your own story through the essays, through the reflections in the book. But I'm curious, at the end of each section, there's a thing that says when it's complicated that kind of goes along with that section. Where did you get the inspiration for those? Are those all based on your experiences, or are they experiences of others that you've met?
So this is actually one of my favorite questions to answer because this part of the book was so important. And it was an idea actually through a blend of my publisher and also just the readers that are on my platform of Happiness, Hope, and Harsh Realities. And what would happen is I would share, my experience with my mother was a wonderful one. We had a great relationship. Obviously, it wasn't perfect. No mother-daughter relationship is, but she was a best friend. She was a comfort and a safe space for me. And so when I started sharing my own writing, I realized that not every woman has that. And so I was gifted, that blessing. But for others, there might have a complicated relationship with their mother. Maybe their mother struggles with addiction, or maybe their mother just struggles with her own personal demons that sometimes get reflected into that relationship. And so I started having women write to me and say, can you write this essay, but from this perspective? Or can you write my story in this perspective? And it felt really important to include those stories as well. So I wrote all of those stories. Each one, like you said, it ends the chapter, but those were really from conversations, from emails, from phone calls with women that I wanted their stories to be included too. And the funny thing is, or the difficult thing, I guess, is those were much harder to write because I really wanted to honor their truth and their reality. And so in sending them off to them, before the book was published and saying, is this what you were thinking? And hearing, yes, that's exactly, what I had in my heart or my mind. And so those stories, while they don't reflect, my own personal journey, I still felt it was so important to include them because I want, whether you had a difficult relationship or a wonderful one, I want you to know that, your grief is seen and it's valued in the exact same, grief is not weighed. There's nothing that's heavier or lighter. It's just unique to each person. And so, yeah, those were tucked in to hopefully represent women that, had a relationship that was, while different than my own, still extremely important.
That's great. Yeah, like I said, our ministry serves women that have all sorts of different relationships. So I think that's really important for them to feel included and their voice be heard, because there's so many themes that are the same between mother loss, whether you had a wonderful relationship that you're grieving the loss of, or you had a complicated, you lost nurture of a mother. So I think that's great that you were able to make them feel seen too and part of the community.
Thank you.
So I know there's probably a lot of people that can relate to so much of what you've written, so much of the journey of mother loss, and maybe they've thought about writing down some of their experiences, their ideas. What can you tell us a little bit about your process for writing the book, the writing process?
Yeah, so for me, I had a friend when I first started writing. Her name's Lauren. She's a writer here in Indianapolis, and she said she made a comment one day about she writes when she gets a glimmer of something instead of writing when you feel like you have to. And so that really changed things for me. And what I started doing, instead of saying, today I'm going to write about this, or today I have to write, I would wait and I would let whatever feeling or emotion come. So if I was at the bank and something happened, or if I was, looking at the Christmas tree and seeing my mom on an ornament rather than in person, and I just waited for those real life moments to happen. And like I said, it changed everything for me because it made my healing so much more real time and authentic. And then it also just really made everything that I was writing so vulnerable and real. And I felt like it was the things that no one was really talking about. And so for me, my process was really just letting myself have permission to write what I was feeling, and not like what we do when we're in front of somebody and kind of tuck down our emotion and hide our grief. You know, I really thought, if I'm sitting here in front of my computer, I'm going to put it all out there. I'm just going to say exactly how I feel, even if that feeling is jealousy or shame, or, you know, those things that feel a little shameful to experience. And so, yeah, I think that my biggest advice and in my process is just to write what you feel when you feel it, you know? And for me, it really helped because it allows you to kind of process through it and just try to figure it out on your own, because you can read a million books on grief, you know, you can go to a million conferences, but you have to do the work. You know, you have to carry the heavy weight, and you also have to figure out how that looks, how to carry it, because the way I do it is much different from other people. And so I think for me, it was just figuring out, you know, what works and what didn't, and then just honoring that and giving myself permission to say, it's okay if that looks different than what the world told me, or what my best friend did, or even my sister, you know?
Great. Yeah, I think it's so important, like you said, just to be honest and get that out. And you never know how others are going to relate to that because, like you said, some of the things in here are things that are raw and real and honest. And it's important for others to know that's okay. I feel that way too.
Right.
Were there anything that you found really challenging when you were working on writing the book?
I think the most challenging thing is just putting your heart out there, you know, the things that I was talking about, you know, like jealousy around Mother's Day and seeing women with their mother, you know, no one had talked to me about that. And so it felt really scary to write about something like that. You know, when I was closing my mom's estate and I had to go to the bank and close her accounts, and my sister and I had a really awful experience, you know, with a woman who just, you know, clearly wasn't knowledgeable how to deal with people that were closing accounts because someone had passed away. And, you know, writing about all of those tough things, you don't know. Just because you've experienced it doesn't mean it's going to relate to other people. And so the biggest fear was, you know, will people understand, you know, and then also, will people be gentle with my heart? Because like I said, it's my story, it's my experience, it's my grief. And while I want it to be universal, it's really complicated. And you want people to understand that I hope you see yourself in this, but I also hope you realize that it's written from my perspective. So if it's a little bit different, I hope instead you still find joy and hope, but you don't be critical of the way that I healed or the way that I processed something. And so for me, that was the scariest part, is just putting my heart out there, because as a first-time author, you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of being real and raw. There's the good part of being able to connect to people, but I'm sure it's hard to be that vulnerable with your story. So were there things that you found really rewarding then by doing that, by opening up, and what's happened since then?
The most rewarding thing, I will probably cry, so I just apologize now, but the most rewarding thing is I wanted to do some of my mom's legacy. And so my ultimate goal was to make her proud. And I never knew what that would look like, because how do you know if you're making your mom proud from heaven, you know? And then after the book was released and reading the reviews on Amazon and getting flooded with emails from people that just said, this helped me. This helped my healing process. And from women that were taking pictures with my book in, you know, Australia or at the beach in South Carolina, or, you know, just all of these different places, and thinking, my heart, because that's what this book is, has been to a lot of places that people are telling me has made an impact. And every time I have a hard day in my grief or just in life as a woman, I read those emails and I read those reviews and I think, okay, then you must be doing something right. Like what you're doing does matter. And even if it's on the smallest scale to help one woman, is the biggest honor. There is nothing that I have found other than motherhood itself, that has filled my cup, like hearing someone say the words I wrote impacted their life for the better.
That's beautiful, and a beautiful way to remind yourself of that legacy, your relationship with your mother, and how that grief can be used to help others. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things people have responded and the impact that that has had on others. But first, are there any books or authors that were that for you when you were going through the beginning or later in your mother loss journey? Were there any books that you found really comforting, or some author, a blog, something like that that inspired you in your journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest inspiration for me, obviously, people like Hope Edelman. When I first started, my page was grateful enough to come on my platform, and we had a Facebook Live. Who's the brilliant author of Motherless Daughters. Obviously, she's such a big inspiration. But I think for me, the biggest and I think the most long lasting has been, I have a group that they're all writers. So like Liz Newman, Natasha Smith, Sydney Kaplan, Lauren Flake, they're all authors that are in the grief space. And they all have books themselves. But beyond their book, they built a community with me of just friendship and, commitment to helping each other grow in whatever season we're in, and just supporting each other. There's never the beautiful thing that I found in the grief space is there's never competition. It's just collaboration. And so those women have been instrumental to me, and I would not be where I am today without them. I mean, and we all do different things. Liz is a brilliant poet, and her words are just phenomenal. If you guys aren't having her on, you definitely should. Lauren has books that are, Lauren and Sydney both have children's book that my kids read, and so just having those women. Natasha has a brilliant book that was released last year, and just having that support system constantly, not only through my writing, but through my grief, has been just a beautiful blessing. And each of them also has their own Facebook pages and outreach. So for anyone that's watching tonight, those would all be pages that I would be following, because those women have been there for me for years and years and years.
Oh, that's great. And what a special thing to have the community, not just that you all are going through grief, but being writers and being able to share ideas, talk about things. And I love that you said about it not being competition, but you all are really being supportive of each other. I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to have that community. And that's a big thing with our ministry too, is that we don't want anybody to go through things alone. It's so important to have the community of people who understand. So like you said, whether it's a community of writers or community of those that are going through the grief journey together, it is such a blessing and such an important part of that journey.
Absolutely. Yes.
So for you specifically, you mentioned some of the feedback, reviews, emails that you've gotten. Is there a certain theme that you really hope readers take away from your book?
I think the theme is just honoring the deep, harsh realities of grief, the never agains, the never got a chance to, and then shining a light on the legacy part and the hope of it all, and just really making sure that people honor those, moments where you're deep in grief, and those initial moments where you don't think you can survive grief, and then later realizing how far you've come. And when the transition happens, just from, surviving each day to living and actually enjoying life again. So I don't know if I think the theme would just be to honor all the darkness, but keep the hope.
So important being able to hold space for both those things, for, recognizing the hard part of it, but also holding on to that hope. Is there, and this may be a question that changes for you over time, there may be many different answers to this, but is there a specific moment or passage in the book that you feel really captures that essence of that message?
I think for me, and this may sound silly, but if you haven't picked up the book, you won't know this, but every single chapter in my book starts with a quote from my mom. And so those are quotes from, cards that she'd given me through the years, or her little journal that she kept at the very end. And so I think the biggest thing is just, my mom is kind of a co-author of this book because those first quotes are from her. And so what better way to honor her legacy than to make her a part of this, like in actual tangible way, even though she's gone. And just really, I hope that at the end of the day, people find a way when they're done with this book to keep coming back to it whenever they need it. It's written in a way that I want people to take what you need when you need it. It's not a book you have to read cover to cover. You can skip to the chapter you need, or, read it how you want. But then also the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, when the book is done, because, I wrote it and my mom's included in there, I hope women go out and find a way to honor their own mother's legacy. And that might be right away for some, and that might be 10 years down the road for others. And it's going to look different for everybody. But that would be my, like, call to action or hope for the book, is that you just, not only do you find hope, but you do something with it.
That's beautiful that her words are in here and a part of it. And it sounds like she's someone that was really encouraging to you. So it's nice to have that as part of the encouragement you're sharing with others, to be able to have her words.
Yeah.
When I was looking through the book, the chapter on the happy days and holidays, I thought there was a lot that really spoke to me. And like you said, it seems like things that you could pick up at different times, because the way you have it laid out, and you have these short reflections and essays. And there were a couple of those in that section, especially this time of year, as we just had Thanksgiving, we're looking towards Christmas. There can be a lot of things that brings up. And I thought the Don't Be Afraid to Say Her Name, the One More Christmas, there were some really beautiful ones in that chapter that really spoke to me, and I'm sure would speak to others as we're going through this season right now. Is there anything else that you hope readers will take away from your book, or something maybe that you've heard that maybe surprised you that someone took away or meant something to them in the book?
Oh, I think for each person, it's been so unique that that's a harder question to answer. But obviously the piece that I'm most known for is The Day She Dies, which is one of the very first pieces in the book. And, I think not only did that piece change my writing career and everything about what happened for me, but I think that's the piece that has resonated with people the most. Because they knew, like, oh, if you followed my page, you knew that was going to be in my book because my readers were asking for it. So I get a lot of feedback about that one. But I also get a lot of people that are appreciative about, the faith section and how it's separated so that, you can either go right to it, or for some, maybe just skip it. But I think the biggest thing or takeaway is just that I've heard, and which is why I designed it this way, is, grief is so complicated and heavy, and that, when you lose somebody, I didn't have time. A lot of people don't have time to pick up a whole book and read it from cover to cover, and even seeing a chapter that's 25 pages long feels daunting. And so I was very intentional about having this separated into sections and then having it be essays, so that if you only can get through 2 pages, hopefully those 2 pages fill you with something that you need, And so, yeah, I think it's been interesting to hear. And I will say the biggest compliment as far as the book, and I've actually gotten this probably 3 times now, and it happened at my book launch party, but a woman said, I love this so much that I am tucking this away for my children when I'm no longer here. And that to me was like, there could be no greater takeaway than, doing something with my mom's legacy than that. And, if that's the last thing that happens for this book, then that's fine with me, because that's such a compliment to have somebody use my words, in that profound way.
Yeah. That's beautiful, and beautiful for them to be thinking about wanting to have that to be there for their children when they're no longer here. And I was thinking about that because I was thinking we probably have people watching that have gone through mother loss and they could really connect with the book. But there also might be people watching who are then having friends or family members who are experiencing loss, and maybe this is something they could share with others. How do you think your book might help someone who's going through that similar experience? Like, do you think that would be something that could encourage them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was designed for, specifically with women in mind, but also I wanted it to be a gift because it was the gift that I needed. I designed it in my mom's favorite colors, and we were very intentional about the cover and the design because I wanted it to be something that you could just put a little bow on and give somebody at their mother's funeral, and it be a gift for them whenever they're ready to pick it up, because casseroles are great and flowers are wonderful, but I needed something more, And so this was the gift that that's the goal, is that it will be a gift for people. And especially in hearing from women that have read it and then said, oh, I bought 2 extra copies for my sister, so I think it is serving its purpose. And I just, my hope is that it reaches the hearts that need it.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and a beautiful way to be able to connect with someone else. Like you said, you knew what you needed or wanted to have, and then were able to provide that for others. And as they are encouraged and read it, that could be something they share when they meet others along the way who are going through that as well.
And I always tell people too, I just want to mention this, but libraries are a great way to get books for, not everybody can afford to purchase a book. And right now is a great time to buy books because everybody's having sales, but there are people that don't have the extra $12 or $15. And so your libraries can always order these for you for free. And so that's an option that I always want to plug for people, because it supports not only their local libraries, but also a way that they can get it for absolutely, no cost.
That's a great point. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, that's a great way to make sure, because it seems like your goal is for just to get in the hands of people and be able to help them and be able to support them along this journey. So kind of getting back to thinking about people who might be listening, who maybe they have things that they want to write out, even if it's not to have a book that they publish. But I know for myself, there have been times where I've tried to just write out how I'm feeling or write out an experience I've had, and I found it to be really therapeutic. Just getting those words out on paper, reading them back, I find that to be a therapeutic process. So I was curious what role you think storytelling plays in the healing process for those that are dealing with grief.
I think it's so important, especially for people, you don't have to be a writer, but what I think the most impactful thing about writing down or, typing or even voice, text, just keeping notes in your phone, is the growth that you will see, the difference, because you can't, it's really hard. It's just like weight loss, you don't always see it, and other people can see it and you don't. And so healing is the same way. When you start writing down how you're feeling, how much activity you could do, what you're capable of, and then you realize a year from now or 2 years from now, and you look back and you read, even if it was a sentence a day, and you say, oh, wow, I didn't see the light, but today I see it, and just so you can see your own growth. And also it's great for memory, write down those things that you remember about people, because we like to think that we'll remember all the intricate details. And I will never forget my mom, but I do start to worry I'm forgetting little things, like what did she do this? What did she wear for that? And just anything that you think might be important, write it down. You don't have to write sentences or paragraphs. You could write bullet points. But I do think it's important because like I said, it shows growth and healing, and also could just be a great memory holder.
A great point about the memory holder. And as we were talking earlier about kind of continuing legacies, talking about children or maybe nieces, nephews, other family, younger family members. I know, like with my own children, they don't remember my mother. So being able to write some of that down for them to kind of have that connection, that's a really great point. That, yeah, you feel like you won't ever forget these certain memories, but for you to remember, but also for your children, your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, family, friends, other people, and future generations to continue to know about this person that was so important.
Absolutely.
So are there other themes or topics that you're considering exploring in the future? Is this an area you want to keep writing on your journey of mother loss? Are there other things that you're interested in working on as a writer?
Yeah, I think I I definitely want to keep writing. I absolutely love it. And I just mostly want to listen to what the people, on my platforms are wanting from me. What kind of book do they want? Do they want another book? And what does that look like? And so I think as I'm really starting right now to, talk about those processes with my agent and my publisher for this past book, and so I really am trying to figure out a way to get feedback from people to say, what do you want next? Because I definitely, writing is something that, fills me with so much joy. And it helps me in ways that I never thought it could. And so I definitely want to continue, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it for everyone else too. I want to make sure that it's something of value and influence and impact that people want or need.
It's so important to be that in tune and want to understand what the people that are following you, that are connecting with you and your community are needing and are wanting. I know this may be kind of a big question, but in thinking about that and thinking about the people that you have met and created this community with, is there one message that you would like to share with readers who've experienced mother loss? What would that be? Like one main thing that you've learned or main message you'd hope that they would learn?
Yeah, I think that is a big question. But I think the biggest thing, or the thing that I keep telling myself again, is that this grief is mine, just like the relationship with my mom was mine. And so my healing, my journey, my feelings, my emotions, my capabilities are going to look different than everybody else. And that's okay. And I have to just maneuver through that and figure out, what works and what doesn't. And some of that is just figuring out, what traditions are worth holding and what traditions have to be let go of just because I don't have the capacity to fill the shoes in the way that I want to, and I think that, the end thing, if I had to end it all on one thing, it would just be I have to remind myself every day that I have two legacies. I have my mother's, but I also have mine. Excuse me. And that's important for everybody to realize, is that you are holding, a legacy of someone that you loved so dearly, but you also are holding your own. And you are here to create that legacy for the people that, you're going to be eventually leaving. And so when I remind myself of that, it gives me a little bit more oomph to pursue things with passion, to live boldly and beautifully, and to still step forward and, move forward, but not move on. I carry those memories with me, but just constantly realizing you're a mixture of your own legacy and the legacies that you've been gifted from those that you've lost.
Beautiful. The really trying to continue on your mother's legacy, but yours as well. And that is beautifully reflected in your book, like you said, with your own words and your mother's words mixed together. I think that's a beautiful representation of what you're sharing. Well, I want to just pause for a minute. I want to make sure before we end that we tell a little bit more about where people can find you and things like that. But I do want to look in the comments.
I was going to say, do we have any questions? Do we have anything I need to answer?
I'll look, and Mary Ellen, you let me know if there's anything that I miss as well. I do see one question that's come in that says, what are some first steps a daughter should take in her grief journey to heal?
Oh, I think first steps is that's a complicated question. But the first thing I will tell you is that my first steps, everybody kept telling me to get through the first year, get through the first. And what I want to warn people of is that the first still come. That first year, yes, is the first of holidays and birthdays. But I've lost my mother 7 years ago, and to this day, I still will have a first. You know, when my nephew was born, that was a first. When I graduated with my master's, my mom wasn't there. That was a first, you know, and so be prepared. Don't let people, teach you these things that are not true and helpful into your journey. So those first will continue, but you will also get through them. And those first moments, I think you just have to really, figure out how to comprehend it all, because I'll be really honest. The first year I ran for my grief, and I am not a runner, and I did not let it stick with me. So for me, year 2 was so hard. And so I think you just honestly are in survival mode at the beginning, and you do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing until you're able to plan a little bit, and you just take it one step at a time. And the other thing I would tell you is find your people, find your community, wherever that is, whether it's online, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's your church, find some type of community. And especially with people that understand loss. So friends are amazing. I have an amazing set of friends, but none of them had lost a parent. So I was an alien to them, like I was different and nobody knew. And so what I needed to do was find people that understood, other people that had lost parents. And so, I think that's a really important thing. And also just, promise yourself that wherever you are in this moment, in this day, you won't be there the next day or in 2 days from now. Set little timelines for yourself. Like if you can't do things, that's okay. Maybe you aren't supposed to do those things right now, and just let yourself have time to do nothing, to have no expectations. And just know that, there are people like me that have platforms that you can email and reach out to us. Your organization is just a beautiful community of those people that you can, offer so much support. So just make sure that you have people and communities to lean on.
So important to help you. Like you said, you can have people that are there for you, but maybe you just haven't experienced that. So it's so important to have those
Yeah.
people. And I also think it's so true what you were saying about, I heard that a lot as well, about just get through the first year, but it's been about the same amount of time, almost 8 years for me. And yeah, I think that I definitely pushed things down a lot at first. And sometimes it was year 2, 3, that Christmas or Mother's Day, those things, it ended up feeling harder than even the first time. So it's a cycle and a journey, and it's not just to get through something and then it's just going to be better. It can come back sometimes unexpectedly, even harder. So I think that is a really good point. I'm just looking through, Mary Ellen. Let me know if there's anything that I have missed. I see some people as well, just kind of sharing their experiences and with mother loss as well. Let me look through.
I've been behind the scenes
Yeah.
trying to keep track of everything. But I think it would be just wonderful if anyone has anything that they tell us, raise their hand or something, and we could bring them on with you, Chelsea.
Oh, nice. I would love that. Let's bring some people on.
All right, we'll see what kind of response happens
Yeah.
here.
Well, and I know with the delay, it can get difficult in technology. So, and I think I didn't answer your other question. You asked before we got to the questions, you asked how people can find me, and I think I didn't answer that. So you can find me on Facebook at Hope and Harsh Realities. My website is called Happiness, Hope, and Harsh Realities, and you can get to that from www.hopeandharshrealities.com.
Mhm.
So on any socials, it's Happiness, Hope, and Harsh Realities. So if you search that, you should be able to find
Have
it.
a wonderful comment from Vanessa West that says, yes, year 2 is the hardest, but so many firsts. Thank you for your answer to this.
Aw. Well, and
Yeah.
I think, I think that the world, the world wants us to heal and smile through things. And, this is not something that I'm shocked that we aren't better at it by now, because grief is universal and it's been going on forever. And so what surprised me is that, if you get hurt, immediately you start the healing process, right? You're bandaging it, you're doing all the things. But really, for me, grief wasn't like that. I couldn't heal or even think about healing, which I also think is a continuation. It's never done. You're constantly healing. But for me, I don't think I will ever accept the loss of my mother. She was only 57, didn't get to retire or meet all of her grandchildren. I don't think I will ever really accept that wholeheartedly, but I had to comprehend it, right? I had to comprehend it to move on and move forward. And so until you really give time to sit with that reality and realize the depths of that reality and comprehend it, healing comes later. Healing comes after that. And that's okay. It's a process that is not immediate.
I will tell you all, I didn't start the grief process till 35 years after the loss of my mother. So 7 years is pretty good. Yeah.
Well, and there's something to say too about, look at the beautiful things you're doing with your, organization, and
Mm-hmm.
this, ripple effect that will undoubtedly continue for forever.
Well, there's a theory, a saying I have that I truly believe that God will never waste or hurt. If you let him use it, he'll use it to your own good. And I think I'm living proof of that.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if there's anybody else that has any questions. I think we've covered questions.
Okay.
And I know we'll probably have some people watching later, so we can make sure to put in the comments some of the ways to get in touch with you, as you mentioned. We can link your a Facebook and your website. Yeah, for people that are watching this later as well, maybe they could reach out if they have questions, because I know not everybody is necessarily able to jump on during this, but we'll have this up so that you can watch it even after the fact.
Yeah. And I will try tomorrow as well. If other people join in and have questions, I'll try to hop on and get to those too. So
Chelsea, I will say you are wonderful.
oh, I love you. You're so nice.
Well, sometimes. It's been wonderful. It's wonderful.
Well, I love what you guys are doing. I think it's just, like I said, it's such an important work that you're all doing. And any way I can support you guys, I'm happy to do that.
Well, this is what you're doing today. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, we will go ahead and wrap up, but thank you. This has been a really important conversation, and I really enjoyed hearing a little bit more about your process of writing the book and your thoughts about it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.